Hello. There you are. I couldn't hear you, but my headset was working because I could hear the game, so I don't know what was going on. Maybe. I just read that poetry you sent. Yeah, I must say I'm like quite tired. I have a lot of doubt that I can even understand the simplest of concepts. So reading that, I was just like punched in the face, basically. Yeah. I'm just telling you, I'm tired. I'm tired. Um, yeah, I finished at like 9, but yeah. Me and the missus have been hanging out, just doing her own thing. I got Kira here, and I got the pussy here. Kira's just been reading, and I've just been watching random YouTube videos. Yep. Uh, I think I was talking to you last time I was playing it. Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely like a long haul sort of game, by the feel of it. Yeah. Oh well.
As a reminder, Sam, when carrying deadly weapons, it's absolutely essential that you exercise restraint. Doubt I need to say it, but killing is off the table. More corpses means more BTs and...
Hmm. maybe I have played this since talking to you, because I actually, yeah, I had like an awesome moment in the game with him, and it's like been quite a milestone actually. Um, it was basically a boss fight. Like I had like a bit of a cutscene and like a really bizarre mission, and then I had a bit of backstory and it talked about Fragile and what happened to her and why she was made out to be an anti-hero, like, you know, a villain or whatever. And then it showed what she actually did and how she like took one for everyone. And then not long after that, I got all um Alice in Wonderland, no, got all Wizard of Oz and got spun out into a big storm. And when I like woke up, there was like I was like in World War One, and all the terrain, everything was like way different. And there's like this ghost battle going on, and you like go through it. Let me know if I'm saying stuff you don't want to know. And then, mm, and then yeah, Mads Mikkelsen like came out of the mud and had these like soldiers around him, and then yeah, he's like labeled him as like this soldier or something, and then you run around these, what do you call it, trenches, trying to find him and shoot him, and he's trying to find you and shoot you, and
More void outs.
have a boss
If
fight.
you kill
And
anyone, you'll be putting not only yourself,
um,
but countless other people at risk.
being told I'm not allowed to kill people. So yeah, I got given like no by Die Hard man. He just giggled at that. Ray says hey. What? He says hey Ray. Me? Oh, it's just this boss fight, and then you like finish him, and then the whole time he's like calling out to the baby. Like, yeah, it's kind of creepy. Yeah. I don't know how deep it's meant to be, if it's gonna like turn into some big thing, or whether it was just designed to give you like an uneasy feeling of like this like menacing goopy dude coming after the thing that you've got in your belly. I don't know, almost like
Over here! Anybody home?
yeah. Like on one level I'm like Hideo Kojima is a mastermind and he ties up his loose ends really well. But then on other ends, like I feel like the first Metal Gear tied up every loose end perfectly, and it did it like in an amazing sort of revelation, or like, you know, like many of them, but like one giant one at the end, like it built up really nice. Whereas in latter games, I feel like there was a lot of like ends that just went off into infinitum for the sole purpose of having like complexity and mystery and weirdness. Like I think his most famous line of why when he's being interviewed is that you should always deceive your audience.
Come a long way, huh? Hope your cargo held up as well as you. Looking good, looking good. Guess you were the right man for the job.
Yeah. So I don't know, I'll go in and out of feeling like that's like awesome and being like, you know, taken advantage of almost. Like, did he just deceive me into spending this money on this game, or like, has he deceived me into being part of the artwork? I don't know. It's just...
So, here's stuff you brought. Motor and a pouch.
I don't, I don't, I don't think his aim is ever to make you not think too much. So, like, I don't know. I think he just spent that long making games that to deceive people, you have to like come up with some bizarre shit that's well outside of anyone's expectations.
They're not.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Well, well, yeah. Well, honestly, I don't know if there's ever like any topic that he's not touched on at some point. It's funny you say that because I was listening to a podcast today with Sam Harris talking with Caitlin Flanagan. I've still yet to figure out exactly like who she is, but they were talking about like the history of like abortion and how it's been seen traditionally, how terrible it was for women to try and get it done, and all the effects that go along with it, like like the medical attention she wouldn't get, or what she'd have to go through to get the medical attention, and the infections and like everything. It was pretty like full on, and like I was talking about. Oh yeah, like I can't even like get into all of it, but like basically like the way that like human life is seen, and she she was like a pro-choice person, but she like touched on pro-life arguments and like gave them some credit as well, and I don't know, sort of just did this whole loop of how rough it would have been to be a woman in that situation for that long, and how it still is rough, but um yeah, And then, but just before that, I'd finished watching that Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand conversation where they're talking about like, hmm, I think, yeah, I think with the right person talking with him, you can see he's not just some two-dimensional character. He's got like a lot of depth and a lot of knowledge, and he's not some evil dude. He's just a really smart guy who's just trying to like say things as they are. Mm, mm. I've seen him cry a couple of times, like two or three times. But yeah, I think I remember one where like the interviewer was being pretty rough, yeah, and was trying to like dig in, like, where's your heart? What means anything to you? And then he like starts crying about like people who need meaning and how he's trying to give it, and how that meaning that they give to him just makes him tick and cry and all these things. And um yeah, because I think too often that like most 90% of interviews against him are like just trying to make him out to look like the biggest asshole. So I think, even if it's fake, it might be his like opportunity to try and show like, nah, I've got a heart and things mean things to me. And oh, I'm saying it's possible. Mm, mm, yeah. Mm, yeah. Well, like here's the thing. Like I don't think his emotions are fake, but he might be like eliciting them purposefully. Like, you know, people don't just start crying for no reason. Like, and I think he's got a pretty good control over where his thoughts go. And I think, well, much like an actor, he's delivering a performance to make the audience feel a certain way, but he's probably calling upon things that really mean a lot to him to do so. No. Mm. Mm. Sorry, just a sec, dude. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Mm. I always feel like I need to dig further because I'll learn bits and pieces, but it, Jung's often got styles and like angles on things that are almost like completely different to lots of other things that I've studied. So it's like really hard to like place where his knowledge fits in for me. Sorry, dude. A lot of place. Thank you. Hello. Yeah, sorry. Um, sorry. Where were we up to? Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. It's like I think the topics must overlap, but he's using a very different model of things than what I'm used to. So like, I really, yeah, I just find it hard to sort of overlap the maps.
Like our usual supplies. New designs, like you heard. To think it's junk dealer made this. Heard he was a pro. But even so, it's impressive work. I'll notify HQ and try to expedite evaluations.
Mm. Circuits. Mm. Oh, fuck, man. I'm not sure. Mm. Yeah, but like when all real medicines cease to like help, then yeah, chuck a few great placebos in, go for it. But like I kind of want to know where the medical knowledge ends and where the poetic like make me feel good stuff starts. I don't I don't want to you know like I have in the past. I don't want to like go to the doctors and ask for something and then be like, oh yeah, well, we're not going to give you a real sleeping tablet. We're going to get you to go spend $38 on some like herbal remedy that's doesn't not going to work. Like no, I'd rather feel good in knowing that like I have to be resourceful myself and not waste money on shit that we know doesn't work. Like let me take care of the placebo part because I'd rather do that for myself than some bullshit company that's going to make money off doing nothing. I can spend that money on actually doing something that I enjoy. But yeah, I don't know. Like you've said before, um, I can be very stark and black and white and extreme and stuff, and I think it's like my passionateness coming out. But I'd, I'd I would like to find the subtle answers to things as well, like middle grounds and stuff. I don't know. I think I'm just emulating a bit of House because I love that fucking character, and I feel like if I had something wrong with me, he's the doctor I'd want to fucking fix me. And he'd probably do it whilst taking the piss out of me. Sorry, what's SSRI? Mm. Mm. Like for instance, like I think, like obviously, one of the appearances I get or give off to people, which I think like even in explaining, I've got a sign watching, even in explaining to you the situation I had with my friends and his partner and that kind of thing, where I came across a certain way. Even you then were like, oh no, but like the ideas and the philosophies you're sharing right now, they do belong to this sort of like toxic realm, whatever word you want to use to describe it. No, but like you could see why they would be displeased with the ideas I had, and like I've like really been trying to to find an honest foundation in which I can like explain or present or even think about ideas about women and communicate that in a way that's like understanding and empathetic towards plights of theirs without feeling like like I'm just buying a whole propaganda philosophy that I feels like fake and not like actually matching up to what the reality is. And I think watching that video with Peterson and Russell Brand was actually something to help with that because they talked about um social social symbols of femininity and how they're not correctly represented or worshipped, or like they talked about gods in different cultures and how they'd have like a female god, like a female symbol, and different cultures had their way of representing it so that females in their societies were given like a respect, so on some level equal to what um, the men's symbol and the men's god did for the men. And thinking about it that way, it made me think like if I was to portray like an archetypal female symbol or or many of them to represent different let's like circuits and stuff, like how would they turn out? And I guess they turn out very much like what Jordan was saying. Jordan was saying that like the characters from like Disney tales and stuff. You've got like evil queen mother bitches, and then you've got sweet innocent like young girls who are they just want to like go off on an adventure. And I don't know, I just kind of explored this in my mind and thought about like you know where do I place women in general, or like, or what how should I what symbols should I reflect in my own mind that would best bring out like you know the potential of what women could be. I don't know. It's something to get lost in. But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. It's kind of unnerving knowing that there is actually someone watching now. I think it's probably my mate that I sent the link to. Um, like someone's in the live stream, and knowing that I'm just like, fucking who is it? I think he's gone already. Yeah. Mm. 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 I don't know, man. I I don't think it's that rare. Actually, what I'm gonna do, and I'm just gonna say this, is I'm gonna just end the live stream because one, I'm more interested in our conversation. Two, I'm not playing the game, and three, no one can hear you talking either. So it's better to. Did you? Yeah. Well, I'm gonna come back after taking the bins out, and you can choose either way which way you want to go, and we'll go from there. Alright, I'll be back in a minute. Cool. See you in a minute. Yeah, there.
Yes, I'm here, and I turned on the thing for you
Oh,
too.
cheers,
It's
bro.
cool.
Appreciate that.
No, it's all good.
Yeah. So I don't know, like even just in that moment, I like tried to like clarify to myself like what it is I'm trying to say, and I think I think part of my problem is that when I have this conversation, there's a different context going on in different people's minds, and I feel like when I talk about feminism itself, like I'm speaking in response to, I guess, a mixture of like a lot of dumb arguments I've heard from that side,
Yeah.
and with like an empathy towards males who also have a very similar experience to the downtrodden sides that they speak about, and how I
Mhm.
think so. Like ultimately, like if I was in my mind in this dark room where I'm like on this fucking stage presenting myself, if I cleared away the audience of feminists there, and it was just me and a female, and I was just talking to this person, I wouldn't be going on about all this stuff. You know, it would be more like, you know, if they came up to me and said, "What does femininity mean to you?" I'd just be like, "Well, we're pretty much the same thing, but like we've also got yins to each other's yangs,
Yeah.
and overall we complete the picture with each other, and we
Mm.
represent Like our differences represent things that are very different to each other, but like our similarities are way more the same than what our differences are, which is a Jordan Peterson thing he says too. In
Yeah.
that we're humanity together, and I don't know. It's sort of like if you would be talking about this is like a cross, like a split in where my thinking went off in that stage yesterday. If you try and talk about an aspect of humanity, then that aspect becomes what people think you think of all of humanity. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm
Yeah.
talking about feminism and that philosophy, and they're seeing that as how I see all women, then that's just like a completely different context to what I mean when I'm trying to have this very specific conversation. Like that specific conversation.
Yeah.
And so, but what I do when I'm even defending myself in the conversation, it's like, you know, it's like it's like we're talking about race for a moment, and you've got like Ku Klux Klan sitting on one side, and
Woo
then you've
woo! Represent KKK.
and then you've got fucking like, you know, the African slaves that were like stolen from their country on the other side, and they go, on which side are you on? And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like I'm not fucking speaking on such extremes. It's like I'd rather it be, you know, it's like you go out to a place and you meet a girl. Like, does the first thing she want to hear from you is like, "Oh my god, I respect women." Like, let me like, you know, put my wallet on the table and you take it and spend all you want on the drinks that you may or may not want, but don't get drunk so that I can take advantage of you. But if you do want to get drunk, you can do that too. But like, you do what you want to do with that money, and like, I'm just gonna stay over here, and if you want to talk to me, you can. You know, it's just like, do they really want to hear that? Or do they want to hear, hey, how's your day? What have you been up to? Like, this is what I did today. Like, can you relate to that? You know, like two human beings conversing, sharing things with each other. Like, that's how I think the genders should be relating to each other in general.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I
then,
think.
yeah, sorry.
Oh. Oh no, that's okay. You
You
still
go.
have something to add.
No.
I think as well, like, I think the most important thing, like, even if we were to refer to, like, Jung's conception of, like, the anima and animus, like, as complexes that, like, opposites within, I think his main thing, like, his main shtick, like, a lot of what he said, obviously, when you take it back to the cultural setting, could be very, we can criticize it and say that was very, sexist of him to say because he did say like things that were bullshit. But I think as well, what his fundamental thing was to look at kind of the spectrum of humanity as um, opposites, and kind of primary things. So when it comes to thinking about the innate differences between the masculine and feminine, I'm not going to say like sexes because sexes are biological, but like differences between the masculine and feminine. He often, obviously, another question has to be posed in there: what differences are cultural based? And I think a lot of the time when it comes to kind of interactions you were discussing, like when you talk to people, I think it's because throughout our lives, when we think about or when we use language, a lot of the time the language we use and the nature of the language we use is very unconscious. Like even if we think about like terms like kingpin or certain like marriage things, these things like kingpin, for example, very patriotic. Why not queenpin? Why not other things? Why not all of that? Like, and I think a lot of the time when we think about it in terms of what he was saying, like whatever the unconscious correlation would be, would be to an aspect of symbolism. We don't think like that, and I think back in the heyday when it comes to feminists, they've now created this massive resurgence of like looking at what is appropriate and what is inappropriate with the images we identify with, and that appropriateness and that inappropriateness is what I think a lot of people, it sounds like, are identifying with. They're like, oh, culturally, like when you say this and this and this, they're taking that and then they're universalizing it and making you feel, do you know what I mean? They're twisting your words or they're not applying it contextually to what you're actually talking about. And to me, that's just dumb. That's just dumb. Like, everybody's unconscious in certain ways or another. And I think when it comes to looking at opposites between the masculine and feminine, you're right. Our whole thinking is premised on gendered ways of thinking, really. If you think about it, with the language we use, it's a lot of our language is unconscious when we think about things. So it's naturally gendered. But the thing is when it's presumed, when certain things are presumed from the get-go, those conversations you have with feminists and everything are going to be blown out of proportion. Why? Because they're criticizing the cultural limitations of your thinking, but they're not addressing things underneath that, because they're not even giving you the chance to address things underneath that. So they're focusing on one aspect when really they should be focusing on another, which just shows how superficial they are to me. Like, so I don't know.
I guess, like, I don't know, like, I don't know, it just seems like when I defend the point that I'm trying to make, maybe in the next couple of sentences, it sounds like I'm being really selfish and very like male orientated in the way that I'm thinking and talking. But like, I want to step out of that for a moment, and like, if anyone's engaging me on that level and they're judging me on that level, I feel like they're already doing their own internal version of what they think I'm doing, but for themselves. And so,
Exactly.
like, it's just like the story that's told and retold, whether it be whatever point in history, whether it be now or ages ago or whatever. It's just that there's a woman there just being a woman, and a man enters the situation, and all of a sudden, like, he's doing X, Y, and Z to her. So she needs to respond like X, Y, and Z back. And
Yeah.
I think if you actually, like, calculate those X, Y, and Z's, like, there are disadvantages for both of them. There's advantages for both of them. And if you only show one side of the story, which is man has all the advantages, woman has all the disadvantages, it's like, it's cut out a whole half of the story that could be there, which is there, and it's making all the other stuff move around. And we can't talk about those things. Like, it's almost, just offensive to do so. Like, and you could pick, like, even some of the more extreme examples, but let's go for the more subtle ones for a second, just so it's not as, like, extreme and inflamed. But, like, just I don't know, the simple matter of, like, I was talking with a lady at work the other day about what it's like for guys to go out and they're trying to meet someone so that they can love them and share a life with them and do all the, like, the great lovey-dovey, bright, colourful stuff that everyone, especially women, says, the core meaning of life, family, like, connection, romance, like, all these things. A guy tries to do that. How does he do that? Like, he's, and I'm talking about, like, straight people here, and I don't mean any offense not to be talking about anyone else, but the expectation on him is that he does the moves, or he does the advances, or he's this assertive one to do the stuff. And then instantly at the first step, like, a feminist point of view on that, or, like, let's say a non-complex feminist view on that point would be, like, instantly he's a predator and he's trying to, like, assert his will onto this poor innocent female. And it's like, hold on, like, we started off with someone trying to meet someone and, like do what his genes are telling him to do, which is to, like, find a companion. And, like, instantly, before he's even, like, spoken with anyone or done anything or had too many drinks or anything, he's already on the wrong foot, because, like, how dare he assume that I'm, like, an object that he can interact with in the universe? Like,
Yeah.
and then the first step happens, he comes up and he tries to present himself in a charming way, like, oh, he's manipulative, or he's lying, or he's this or that, and like you got to like pull down all these barriers and all this wording and all this like what I'd call propaganda to get to the point of like he's just like you, like you're both the same, you're both doing what your genetics and your cultural context has like set for you, which is he's got to put himself out there and he's got to take risks to get anywhere, and she's got to assess him and his behavior and be defensive and be like, well, is he the one that I want to basically immobilize myself for 9 months for? And can I trust him to look after me and the baby if that happens? And there's a huge responsibility on women at that point to be able to like choose the right one, like dictate the speed of the journey and whether or not she can trust him. All those things, like I can say that I respect that, and like I can say I understand that's a really big deal, but obviously I'm the woman and I don't have that same experience. But like speaking objectively, as objectively as I can, like I give that whole like what do you call it? Just part of the universe expressing itself, like a lot of respect, like I don't know, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. It just
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on some good points. Like, I think back in the heyday, like the role of women, for example, especially because when it concerns like feminist arguments, it's very much centered on the role of women throughout history. And I think the role of women was to provide emotional support to the man while he went about his business in the external world. Like, and I think there was like a German saying, I think it was German, it said like Kinder, Kirch, Kirche, or something, like
yeah,
children, church, kitchen. That's basically the role of women. That was the role of women back in heyday. Not too long ago, the 19th century, when it started to collapse. So I think in terms of, if we just go back to the anima and animus, like if women have been historically abused throughout the ages and their aspect of the animus, the masculine energy within their soul, has been repressed, what kind of ramifications are we going to get out of that? What sort of massive retaliations are we going to get when a whole population for many, many, many years have been repressed energetically, stifled? They couldn't be themselves. They couldn't express this, perhaps the patriarchal side of themselves, because if they did, they would be shot. They would whatever. They would be ostracized. They wouldn't be the woman. They wouldn't be in the church. They wouldn't be in the kitchen. They wouldn't be this upstanding woman. This upstanding woman in terms of the role and what they played. So for me, when I look at the connection that you're discussing with these people that you're interacting with, I just see them as historically abused. I see them as either so unaware that they're retaliating, they're reacting to the environment that has been nurtured all the way from how long humans have been around, since what? Jesus Christ, like BC, like whatever, like these women have been historically abused for how long? Of course they're going to be mad. Of course, of course, of course. But I think it sucks that obviously if you are trying to understand some of their opinions and stuff like that and it's taken out of context, yeah, I think that just sucks. And I think my question to you would be, why are you so caught up on identifying these distinctions or trying to nuance your conversation with this idea of the role of the woman? Why are you doing that, Brayden?
well,
Because it seems, yeah, like, especially like, obviously we had the discussion with those other people, but about those other people, like, in certain issues that came out of that. But I suppose it's even now, like when you're looking at nuancing your conversational skills around this particular subject, why all the focus there on the anima and animus um, as opposed to like other archetypal complexes like the trickster, the mother, the great mother, the all these other things? Why are you focusing on femininity?
Well, I mean, there's a few different topics I get into, as I'm sure you would have noticed, and
Mm.
like religion being a strong one,
Yeah.
and I guess I don't know. I guess I just like I look out at society and I try and see like concepts and philosophies and stuff that are unhealthy, and like like don't get me wrong, you get me started on actual toxic males from what I think toxic males are, and I'll rant on for hours about what fucking bogan footy loving dickheads there are out there and how they've pissed me off, how they've pissed other people off. Like, you can get me on any one of these topics and I'm willing to like explore that. But I think the reason why this one has been strong recently is because basically I've been accused of being that toxic male. And,
Yeah.
like, how do you respond to that? Like, how do you respond to being called basically like the epitome of like the history of oppression against women for simply pointing out things that they've logically said that aren't consistent with like how things are, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like if I was a female, then maybe like I wouldn't be accused of that. I can have an opinion on like non-complex feminism and it would be okay because that's like I'm an insider having a go, a bit like when I was a religious person having a go at religion, and now that I'm out of it, it's almost, oh, I'm an outsider. How dare you say this? It's like, no, but I was one for 20 years. Problem is, I was never a female. Or maybe I was in the
Yeah.
womb before, like, the fucking X chromosome was presenting itself, whatever it is. Um, like, if I make points that make someone like a female or a feminine person feel uncomfortable, then they can just simply say, "Well, that's just because you're a male," and not address like the point it is that I'm actually saying.
Yeah.
I feel a little hurt. Like I'll put it that way. That's some honesty there. I feel a little hurt. I feel like I'm being judged for the sins of my fathers,
Yeah.
and that there's no way that I can actually represent a non-oppressive male because all of the landscape and all the language that's out there to talk about it is already tarnished. So even if like men actually like cure it overnight, I don't think the type of people I'm talking about, or maybe a lot of people, would even notice it because they'd be too caught up in trying to find the worst in everyone else, or the predator, or the worst intentions. Like, like I think you're in a unique position, um, because you're someone who like I don't know. I want to be able to like talk frankly without like stepping on eggshells or anything. But
Honestly, go ahead.
like
I am an
women
open book.
like can trust gay men in a way that they couldn't trust straight men, right?
Yeah.
And so gay men can talk from that point of view of a man reformed from history and from his patriarchal side and say like, you know, basically like, like they can present their feminine side and they can meet on those levels. Um, Not all of them obviously, but like, you know, and I don't know, like for straight men to do that or to represent that they're willing to do that, they've got to do like pretty much one thing, and that is to just like forfeit any agency or any like intention or anything like that, and basically just say like whatever you want to do is everything we're gonna do. And I just think like, regardless, like, whether you're male or a female, if you do that, you're sort of, you're making, like, you're being a bit of a bitch, basically. If you can't even simply state, like, things that matter to you or mean anything to you because, like, you just want to let someone else's be God to you, basically, and you're just gonna, like, sit and pedestal them. I don't think that's respect. You know, that's like a mixture of fear and manipulation.
Yeah.
That's like,
Well, yeah.
sorry, you go.
Well, I think as well, like, and I think as well, when kind of we're addressing like differences between like the masculine and feminine and like the female and like genders and stuff like that, I think a lot of it as well, like, you can focus on kind of the symbolic imagery behind it, but then you can also focus on developmental factors. Like, for example, like the anima and animus being rooted in what Hume called like the parental imagos or whatever. I don't know. It's Latin, I think, but like he called it the parental imagos, which is basically the images of the parents or parental surrogates that have been imprinted on kind of a developing person's psyche throughout history. And I think at the end of the day, I think as children grow older, sometimes obviously some of the images they've associated with certain gender differences have been nurtured. Do you know what I mean? And I think our early experiences with our parents and families and all of those other essential things for our development, they carry a very, very large psychological charge with us, and they can almost determine the image we carry of the opposite sex and whatever that means. So I think a lot of the time when you're discussing addressing some of these things with these people and feeling misplaced or judged automatically, it's like, okay, you have been judged automatically and discriminated against as well. But at the end of the day, when it comes to discrimination, a lot of people aren't ready to address those particular concerns with where those negative tones or restrictive elements, perhaps from those parental imagos or parental surrogates or whatever images they had as children, they're not ready to address that. They're not self-aware enough to address those particular concerns that you're bringing up. So to me, like, sure, you can hammer away at them and have all these conversations with them, attempting to perhaps enlighten or transcend whatever restrictions they've unconsciously placed themselves within, or kind of they've just the psyche's just developed. But like, you can't really get through to people that are outside of, again, that zone of like proximal development we were discussing before in like a person's life. Like, you can only teach somebody so much. The teacher teaching the student, you can only teach the student so much. If it's not within their cognitive capacity, they can't learn it. So to me, like, I think you're right. Like, I think you are right. Like, you have been, I think you're likely being impacted by those negative charges of discrimination and retaliation from those females, and that sucks. But if you're seen that way, what can you really do to adjust your image? You can adjust your appearance all you want, but is that going to...
I think, like, what it comes down to is if people are actually serious about moving into the future in a positive way, where we stop discriminating against people, then I think they're the types. I think, like, if the ones that are, and I think they're out there, they're the ones that are just gonna, like, listen to the fucking words you're saying, like the meaning of what you're saying, and be like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, like, you know, I'm not gonna prejudge you on this, and I'm not gonna have to set out some example image of what I'm meant to represent, and we're just like, let's forget all about that shit and just be people and do people things.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I don't know, it's like when you meet like an African person, you just instantly be like, oh my god, like, I'm so sorry for like the history of like what my ancestors did to yours, and you know, just give them this 30-minute like monologue about the history of slavery and this and that. Or do you just go, hey man, like, what are you up to? What do you want to do? Like, you want to fucking grab a drink, you want to go hang out, watch a movie, you just treat them like they're you, and you're hanging out with yourself, because that's basically what we
Yeah.
are. Like when it comes down, we're more the same as each other than we are different. But everyone wants to focus on those fucking differences, and it's like you wonder why things aren't moving forward. It's because you yourself are creating this world that you're talking about.
Yeah. I agree
Um,
with you. I honestly agree with you. Like, I think what you've said, I definitely agree.
does
I
it
think
does it
people
mean that
tend
you
to fight.
couldn't put on the show Roots and then sit there and have an intellectual conversation and an emotional and a sympathetic conversation about what happened to this culture, what happened to this gender, what happened to like that part of humanity and these animals and these like all of these different things. No, you can still talk about them and you can celebrate the good sides of these things. But it shouldn't be the focus of your fucking existence to point out the differences and say, hey, you're a baddie because your skin color or because whatever genitals hang from fucking between your legs. I just think it's
Yeah.
what your sexuality is, what, which fucking, which fucking god you do your rituals to.
That's why, like, interestingly, especially because you brought it up, like, sexuality before, like, with me being able to identify with kind of those masculine and feminine sides with another female
Mm.
and them understand it. Like, I've come across more females that are more masculine than me than I would ever care to admit, like publicly. Like, and
Mm.
it's almost, I think it depends on your identification with um those particular sides of yourself. Like for me, I don't give a shit whether I'm masculine, feminine, or whatever. I never have because I think proportionally to the like I was already a repressed minority. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just a repressed
Mm.
minority to begin with. So I think what you said, like with eliciting trust from another repressed minority or majority, in certain contexts, like duh, it makes sense to trust another repressed, prosecuted minority too. So I think in that sense you're right, but I think as well, like that's why it's hilarious when other females always say, "I need a gay best friend." It's like that is such an unaware, ignorant statement for you to make that I don't want to be your friend anymore. The fact that you've just said that has just turned me not your friend.
Mm.
And I think just bearing in mind those small, especially like I was about to, like, for example, that simple analogy, like when they say, "I need a gay man best friend," like that is automatic discrimination. I
Yeah.
think that's akin to what you're experiencing. Like,
Yeah.
and I think I'm not too much, I don't get caught up in it too much because it's just that unconscious gendered differences that they're focusing on. Like, throughout history, they think, oh, I'm going to get close to a gay man because he expresses all the feminine sides that I want in a man, but I actually don't want in a masculine man, which is
Mm.
very contradictory. And that's exactly why I think Jung's right on the money when it comes to unconscious correlates of whatever traits we are experiencing without our being. And I think that wholeness, that totality that a lot of the time we seem to be striving towards is almost very symbolically related to Jesus Christ. Like what Peterson was saying with like the self and Christ, how the ultimate tragedy happened to the perfect being. The ultimate tragedy, yeah, happened to the perfect being. And that can be symbolically deduced to be ourselves. And yeah, I just think whatever the fuck, like fuck everyone. That's what I think. Everybody's stupid. That's honestly what I think. I think don't get too caught up in it. They're all stupid.
That's funny. You just like change direction very quickly there.
Because I'm bipolar.
You and your bipolar bears again.
Yeah. What was that Care Bear thing back in the 80s, 90s? What was that Care Bear koalas?
Wow, another very quick tangent. I have no idea what you're talking about. Care
Oh,
Bear,
good.
yeah.
Care Bear ethics, mate. Oh,
Right,
well,
so
good luck. Good luck with trying to transform females' perceptions of your misogynistic
yeah,
ways.
no, look, it's not even just that. Like,
I know, I'm
hmm,
just kidding. To be honest, do you want me to be frank?
I want you to be Ray.
Thanks. Well, I don't even know what not Ray would look like, so. But I don't think that's the problem. I don't think, to be honest, like if I was to try to psychoanalyze, which I'm not very good at, nudge, nudge, I don't think that's the core issue. Like when you're talking about these issues with all these females, I don't think that's the core issue. I think you're trying to fledge out exactly what you were saying before. Like it could be correlated with like some sort of like religion, kind of what you're saying, like growing up and stuff like that. I think there's something definitely there with the parental images, perhaps, that need to be addressed more directly than using. But to be fair, if this is your way of assimilating some sort of thing within your own soul, using like femininity and kind of Jung, like not Jung symbolism, but like Jordan Peterson and his kind of representation and his image, and kind of assimilate the feminine aspect of whatever side that you have within your soul, then so be it. Do that.
Well, like, all right, let's delve into a slightly different thing, and I'll try and be as honest as I can. It's a conversation I don't think I've had very much with anyone, but it's one angle of I'm looking at it from is that I think out of my mum and my dad, I was more like my mum, and I think a lot of the traits that I had were like typically feminine traits.
Interesting.
So I was a lot more like language than math. You know, I was a lot more empathetic than I was about like logic and facts and whatnot. I was more into art and poetry and all that kind of stuff. Drama, in a way. And I just like, I think it was just naturally what I was more inclined to. But, and like, you know, I think I was more of a white knight back in the day. I'd be like, measure myself up to be like, you know, oh, guys treat girls like, you know, guys are asses to girls and stuff, but I'm not gonna be that one. I'm gonna be like the good Christian boy who fucking waits till he's married and he's gonna be all sweet and saintly and this and that and like, and
sacrilege.
basically, like, as time went on, I just realized that, like, even I demonized masculinity to a point.
Yeah.
Not to say there wasn't a lot of masculine things I was into anyway, but I got to a point where I'm just like, well, it's not all just, like, monsters and shit. Like, the assholes that I think are assholes are fucking assholes, not just because they're males, but because they're fucking assholes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, and then I just looked at the things I was into, and I looked at the skills I had, and said to myself, like, what am I missing? Like, what don't I have? What's the things I can work on? And a lot of them were masculine traits. You know,
Yeah.
could I be more assertive? Could I like be better at like starting the conversation? Could I be better at like presenting my point of view? You know, could I be better? And these are obviously stereotypical masculine things.
Yeah.
Some of it was just like physical strength and coordination. Like, you know, what sport do I like doing? What, you know, what music do I like? Like all these things I sort of not even like mapped out and decided what things I'd liked or not liked or was willing to give a chance. And I kind of got to a point where it's like, there's a lot of this world of masculine stuff that I've sort of myself sort of pushed away, or it just seemed too generic to me. Or it was like everyone else is doing this, so I may as well try something else. So I was like, no, let's come back to some of these things, and you know, what is this good for? What is that good for? And doing what I do now, like a lot of stereotypical masculine traits help a lot. And
Yeah.
there were things I was weak in, so I wanted more experience in it. And I've just come to find that like there's fucking so much awesome masculine stuff. Like masculinity is just as fucking good as femininity. You know what I mean? Like it's not like
Yeah.
one's forever tarnished because they were fucking meanies throughout history, and the other one's forever just vulnerable and weak and whatnot. No, like both of them can flourish in an individual and outside of the
Mhm.
individual. So, like in learning this, like I can see why people think there's plenty of male assholes out there. Like I saw it
Mhm.
myself, but the arguments you don't hear as much is like what's beyond that. Like what what's
Yeah.
worth celebrating about masculinity? What has masculinity done that's good? And there's
Yeah.
plenty. There's fucking shit tons, and I'm I'm happy about that. You know, there's a lot of great things that femininity has done, and it's been within every human being, as well as expressed in its more pure forms in, like, you know, stereotypically feminine things, art, poetry, language, um, even medicine is like an extension of that, like, empathy and nurturing, and obviously, again, I'll state just so like I'm not triggering anyone, the stereotypical feminine things.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
well, well, I think as well, like even hearing what you're saying as well, like personally, like yeah, like I think really simply, like and superficially, like I think even as like what you said, like with your childhood and definitely identifying more with kind of feminine virtues, and then all of a sudden having to accommodate like these masculine perhaps complexes growing up because you wanted to more balance out um, yourself. And I think as well, like the Jungian perception is like the self is the archetype of wholeness. It is all. It is all encompassing. It's real. Yeah. It's the kind of ultimate ideal of whatever you are as the self. And I think as well, like when it comes to like conditioning certain attitudes, thoughts, and like behaviors, stuff like that. Obviously, it's dependent upon like where we're born and grown, but I think sometimes when we look at society and what it means to be civilized, I think a lot of the time there are people that slip through the cracks. And personally, like even hearing what you're saying, I think you're somebody who slipped through the cracks, not because there's something wrong with you or anything. But I think because in civilization we need obviously order, and with order comes collective attitudes. And I think your view, as you just described, of looking at those collective attitudes is they're prefabricated rules for a society that most people may like to live in, but may not be the ideal. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to offering a trajectory for where society wants to be, we, whether we address those prefabrications or not isn't kind of the direct point. I think it's more like what, how does an individual that's pursuing that transcendent quality of the self and trying to move beyond these rules that society has imposed on them, how do they differentiate themselves from the environment, or how do they figure out who it is they are and who it is they are not in that kind of process? And I think when it comes to Jungian, Carl Jung, he made a very apt thing talking about the process of individuation. He said he offered the process of individuation as almost this kind of counterpart of trying to install that word of encouragement that the normal people, the people that don't really think about these concepts, have just fallen into. It's the opposite of what the fitting in for those prefabricated. Anyways, but yeah, he said the idea, the individuation process is when it's the conscious realization and integration of all the possibilities that's within an individual. So in that sense, when people find their orderly success from the prefabricated rules of society, that's them, that's themselves, because they don't care, they don't want to diverge from that. That's not their transcendent path.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time when it comes to becoming individuated, a lot of people don't. It's just it just seems to be part of reality. So I think individuation attaches a sense of worth to those who suffer because they're unable or unwilling to measure up to those collective norms or collective ideals that the orderly society is trying to impose. But I think as well, like, it gives them a process in which they can compromise their own human dignity or like re-innovate that and establish their own inner values that's not dependent on faith in the system or faith in those rules and shit. So I think it's good, to be honest, that your path isn't with all those other people, because we're ourselves, like, I don't know. That's my 2 cents anyways. But obviously it's good to fit in and be certain, so that's where the question is of I and not I comes in.
Well, it's nice to feel supported and to feel like you've got a lot in common with other people.
Yeah.
On the other hand, like, if you see people you're in a group with doing shit that's you don't think's right, you need to have the balls to be able to say, like, hey, I'm not part of this wave,
Yeah.
And if I am, I'm the one fucking trying to lead it towards, like, a different angle.
But I suppose, like, who cares? Like, who cares what everybody does? Why not focus on you?
Well, who cares if there's oppression?
Yeah,
who cares? Who cares if, like, people have been treated like shit constantly, or people being racist or homophobic or that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Yeah.
I fucking do.
See? And then this is where your identity is centered around. So you care very passionately for these very big topics. So that, in terms of kind of what creates an orderly society is what you're identifying with. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to re-alter some of these prefabricated rules for what an orderly society looks like in these particular female counterparts of yours, which is very interesting.
Well,
and
forget the female part. I try to do it in everyone.
I know, but it's interesting that it's very substantiated with females. I don't know if that's from
Happens to be the flavour of the month. Pardon the month metaphor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe it's a flavour that seems to be given more, like, credence than the other ones. Like,
Yeah.
not just by me, but, like, society as a whole right now, or the Western world as a whole right now.
Yeah. Well, then that's good you fall into that box then.
Or someone
No.
that... Sorry, I lost you.
No, I was just kidding about boxes and stuff and falling into them.
Oh, I've fallen into a few boxes in my time. Ooh, masculine joke. Oh, what a sexist.
Comedian, whoa.
Oh.
Twitch streamer, he can't 5 million views. Why don't you become exactly? And that's like Jordan Peterson. He's a very polarizing agent. Like, a lot of the time, well, I don't personally see him as polarizing, but like, he's been categorized as very polarizing and very provocative. So, how do you feel about that? Why don't you just be very provocative to these counterparts instead? But
Stir people up constantly.
Why? Just because you like it, or because you want to prove a point?
Yeah, there's that too. More that. I don't particularly just feel the need just to annoy people. Like, don't get me wrong, there's times, but I don't know. I feel like if people are, I don't know. I almost see myself as like the court fool. Just like the jester that's in between everyone else going about their daily life, and you've got like the fucking king at the top who can kill anyone he wants, and you got people like people going about their day doing their own thing. If they say the wrong thing or look at the king wrong, then they're in threat of death. And then there's the fool who sits there in like a cage and just takes the piss out of everyone, including the king, all day long. And the king's mildly amused by it, so he keeps me alive. It's like, you know what, you got a point. So I'll let you live and I'll feed you.
Yeah.
But I'm also the common people working, and I'm a bit of the king, and I'm the fucking walls that surround him as well, and we all are. This is, this is the part that I like to play, and I'm aware that I'm playing it.
So the Fool.
Yeah, the Joker.
The Fool.
Because there's a secret wisdom in the Fool.
Hey! I'm not trying to like disarm you or anything, but that's what it'd be referred to as the Fool, the jester, the trickster. No, I think that's a separate thing, the trickster. But
each of them have their own different comics, their own different stories, and their own different adventures. I think, but I don't know. I want to be able to like point out what's true in a way where people are just like so flabbergasted. Like I'd never say that, but like they know it's real. Like there's a truth to it.
yeah,
And so they wanna like curse you out as being like, oh, you've just said something wrong, or you've offended someone, or this or that. But like deep down, they know like you've hit on something that's in them as well.
hmm.
I don't know. Sometimes I just start to feel like I'm just like the most selfish person in the world because I'm just constantly talking about myself with you and like.
To be honest, I think it's cool because it means I don't have to discuss me, which is awesome. So actually, I think I criticized you a bit. I was too harsh. Thinking back to our previous, I was way too harsh. Like I was like, "Wow, you're an egocentric loser that just wants to offload." But I think no, that's an unfair way to categorize it. But
When it comes down, if you identify with everyone else in the world, then you're always going to be talking about yourself no matter what.
yeah. So what does that mean? Like, what's the opposite of that? Not identifying with everyone. What would that look like?
Well,
Would that represent like a ambiguous like self-identity complex where the other person doesn't know who they are, so they just listen to everyone else? That would be the opposite with it.
I'm not sure, but I guess like on one hand I could just say I'm so extremely different from everybody else, and this is why. But if you then reunite them and say, but this is what's in me is in everyone else, and what's in them is in me as well. And I take some burden for all the like flaws in everyone else, and I take some credit for all the good shit in everyone else, because we're all like reflecting each other.
Wise words spoken here today
The fool.
on the 4th. On the 4th of May at
May the 4th be with
2:10.
you.
Yeah. I don't. Well, if you're right, do you really identify as the Fool? Is that really your complex?
I identify as everyone, as everything. I just don't like to be stuck in one character too long.
Oh wow. Okay, and your primary kind of archetype would be the Fool then, like personally, like just within your soul. That's what you want to feel like.
I don't know. I'm more of a fool than most people, like in that sense, in the Joker sense.
Yeah.
But there's other people who do it more than me, and sometimes you go like, "Wow, you're way out there." But I understand their pain. when people like look at him and like, man, you're fucked in the head. Like, why are you even going on about this shit? Like, no, I've been there, and even if I'm not following you the whole way and like agreeing with everything you're saying, I'm just like, look, I get it, man. It's cool. Now let's, when you want to stop being that character, let's just share a beer together.
Yeah. But that's very interesting because there was something he said quite interestingly about. Oh no, actually, never mind. Yeah,
Never mind, it wasn't interesting. Come on.
never mind. Yeah, it actually was dumb. Yeah, well, I'm just thinking about all those archetypes as well. I think I would probably identify more with the trickster, a yin and yang, like the person that doesn't take life too seriously, but also represents the shadow side of whatever they're interacting with, the world, you know? Yeah. Not necessarily manipulative or anything or thing, but I suppose like, yeah, like somebody prone to mischief and like pranks and jokes and
Loki.
stuff like that. Yeah. A shapeshifter,
I like
as
that
they
character
say. Yeah, the trickster.
because I think it was one of the first conversations I had with you was like talking about how, sometimes I just like to blend in and like
Yeah.
I'll adapt to whatever's there. And I don't know, honestly, it's probably just whatever fucking sitting right next to me at the time. I'm like, yeah, I identify with that thing. I've literally got a poster of the Joker sitting in front of me, and I've got a big tool poster of like the net of being, like all these individual heads connected to each other with like the universe in all of their heads. So I'm probably just outputting all of the input that my sensory like input's getting right now, and I'm just
Yeah.
like pretending like I'm an agent, like having unique thoughts when really I'm just like just mixing all the words about that are in there and just spitting them out.
Well, that's why I like the trickster. Do you know what I mean? Like he's
Mm.
not identifying too much with whatever paradigm he's putting out there. You know, he's just like whatever the fuck. And I think you're right. Like I think the degree to which we kind of just throw out hobble jobble, whatever that, even if that's a word, hobble jobble. Whether it's a hogswash. Do you know what I mean? Like we just kind of we're in our environment and we just throw out whatever's on our mind at that moment. And
Mm.
that's why I like living in the moment as opposed to being more reflectory on stories. Because, like, sure, the
Mm.
stories could impact the moment, but who gives I don't know. But then I
Well,
suppose, like, the whole point of being a therapist and stuff like that and helping people work through things is to look to the past to inform the future. But yeah, it depends.
that was one
Positive
way.
psych doesn't look at that.
It's definitely a very like traditional psychological way of going about it.
Yeah. That's why I like psych because I think a lot of the time, like when people try to address questions and stuff, like when people get involved with economy and like economics and business and all this sort of stuff, like sure, they're touching on fundamental things that are important for this orderly society we've idealized. But at the end of the day, when we want to be questioning our reality and understanding what root mechanisms are going on, like it just seems to me psychology is the logical choice. When we want to understand our perception, you go to psych, you go to philosophy, you go to the arts, you go to these archetypal patterns of like things because that's at the root of our understanding. Like, sure, you can go to physics and bio and stuff like that, but what point is going to biology and physics and stuff like that? Oh no, not bio per se, but like physics when we don't even understand ourselves yet.
Mm.
Like,
Who was that
external.
philosopher though that said like basically the opposite? And he said, um, our like political views are just a reflection of our like economic and class status, something like that. Like if you want to know someone's political views on something, just like know where they land physically in class and all those things. Like you can, yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. I don't know who said that, but it sounds like bullshit. Well, it doesn't sound like bullshit, but I think it's right. Like, I think obviously there would be truth behind the sentiment. Like if you look at class and demographic features, you would see particular trends between their political philosophy and where they sit. But politics just is like, it's just rhetoric. Isn't that what politics is? It's just rhetoric. It's persuading people. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to persuade everybody to believe what we believe or how to see the world how we see it. But like, who the fuck gives a shit? Like, I don't give a shit. Nah, I do give a shit. But I don't give a shit at the same time.
I'm feeling a tendency from you tonight to move away from, like you said, the analytical and the stress, and more towards something freer and more flowing. And I'd like to know or see what that's like if it was to keep going that direction.
What, like to entertain like a position of like, who cares, blasé, like,
Or just
indifferent.
conversation.
What? Can you be very direct with the question? What's the question?
No, not direct, flowing.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I think you have picked up on it. Like, I have just realized I've been reading a lot of poetry like the last few days. Obviously, century in, century out. And I've just really been thinking about what it is I value, you know, like my inner values. And to be honest, I have been putting out a lot of like snappy, aggressive,
Aggressively
affects
hippie
other
stuff.
people. No. Well, if you said it's hippie, sure, you're more than welcome to indulge that. But I think, do you remember what you said? You said something like, especially what I said to you, like, it's interesting, like, especially when I sent you that thing. And I said, I've been thinking about when you said, why are you so nice, or why are you so kind when you don't have to be? And I think, yeah, I've really been thinking about that, and I think it really hit me in a place that kind of upset me as well, because I don't want to be seen as kind. And I think, especially, you know, like, I don't want to be seen as kind because, to be honest, it's that discrimination that, like, aspect where it comes through. If you're seen in a particular way, people will end up abusing you. It's just how the system works. So to categorize somebody into that category, I was like, sure, that's an aspect of my character, but why does it upset me so much? And so I've just been looking at a lot of poetry, like by some authors, and I actually don't give a fuck anymore. That's what I've decided. Like, why care? I don't care. I just want to, like, do me and send whatever I want to send. If I want to send an essay to somebody, like you, for example, I'm going to do it because fuck it. And, yeah, that's like, I did notice as well when you sent through those images, you got some new stuff, which is cool. They look really awesome. Like, by the way.
I'll pop the phone out and I'll have a look so I'm on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember sending you some cool shit.
I know, that was nice. Especially because I think our last conversation was iffy. I was like, fuck you, see you later. Cut. I need to stop doing that.
You're right.
Alright. Alright, man.
I said you're right.
Alright.
Well, what you were just saying before about, like, if you come across nice, people can take advantage, or not even like appreciate what it is that you're doing for them. And I think like one of the defenses I had to that was to come across like I'm a prick, like a lot of the time, and take the piss out of people all the time, and then when they're actually in need, like, help them out. And I feel like it works on two levels, because it's like, it gets them used to people being rough with them, and it like gives them practice at it. But once they're like, you know, they've broken down for whatever reason, whether it be me that fucking did it to them, then I can be like, alright, like, actually, no, I can help you out. I'm your friend, and I'm here to help you. But you need to get back on your feet, because if you fucking stay down, you're gonna get shot. and we would keep moving.
Yeah, I think that's cool, and I think that's that defense mechanism to like convey like this image that perhaps you're more authentically not is cool, and I think a lot of the time, if we look at certain like connections and stuff like that, that's what pisses me off. Like I'm one of those people that want to uncover like, do you know what I mean? Like unearth like who it is people are and how to best kind of communicate ideas like fluidly and stuff like that. So to me, I think that's especially that's why do you know what I mean? Like as you said, like it's changed a bit because I think with the poetry and stuff, I think it kind of made me reflect on some of the ways that I view connections and stuff like that. I think it's not unhealthy, but it's just like very fucked. I don't know, but yeah.
No, I
So
think there's
kudos
nothing
to
wrong
you.
with you, and I think sometimes you're going to be confident in what you do, and other times you're going to be doubting it, and
Yeah.
like you like spinning on that in all different directions very quickly right now.
What did you send through, by the way?
Sorry,
What did you send
um,
through?
some of the stuff I didn't send through earlier.
Oh, neat. I love how it says New Zealand. Spookless New Zealand. Cool.
By the way, a little point. I don't know if I mentioned it last time. Is that New Zealanders say women funny? They say woman.
Woman. Yeah.
Yeah. So the plural and the singular of woman is woman in New Zealand, whereas in Australia the plural is women. And I was teaching
Yeah.
a New Zealander mate here about that, and I don't know. I think he just was just like, shut the fuck up, fuck off.
But why do you think that is? Like, do you have like a sociological perspective on it? Like, why?
Why? I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
it's just language and it evolves differently in different places.
Yeah.
I don't think New Zealand was like, no, we don't like making it sounds, so we're just gonna like leave it out. That said, they do not like making it sounds like fish. I'd rather say push, push, push.
Fish. Fish. We do not.
You do
Fish.
say
Fish. Easy.
fish eating.
Are you going to point out some of these new ones, by the way? Or just. Oh,
Well,
wow, the four-legged one looks neat. That one's new.
I forget which ones I've said now. I'll have a look.
Translucent prototype suit. That game's going to be coming out soon. Are you going to get it?
Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is out.
Oh, is
I'm
it? Yeah.
I'm taking my time because one, I've got heaps of games to play. Two, apparently it's a bit buggy. They
Yeah.
haven't worked out all the kinks yet. Um, but like it's obviously a theme that I really want to play. But if it turns out to be like not that great a game, then I don't want to just rush into it.
Yeah. Rushing into shit is bad. Oh. That four-legged one's my favorite.
Yeah, the dog one.
Yeah. That's my favorite out of all of the ones you've sent through.
That's funny. It's probably like one of the cheapest ones. And when I was getting it, I was like, oh, that's not the particular one. Like, there's different versions of it. It's not the
Oh, got
particular
you,
one I'm
yeah.
after, but it's cheap and it comes with the other one, so I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'll get it. But since I've gotten it, I'm like, that's actually pretty damn good.
It's awesome. Like I think a lot of the time as well, like people like assign this value of like quality is like everything and if whatever. But I think I personally like do you know what I mean? Like being on the floor, being like closer to the earth and stuff. Like it just symbolically makes it more realistic to me. You know, like looking at it, it adds that quality of like, wow, you know, you're actually about to come alive and eat my face off. I love it.
But look at the detail of that one, and then compare it to the one I'm just sending now,
Okay.
because they're different types. But this one I'm sending a picture of now is very versatile. You can put him in all different positions and make him different stuff. It can be like a dog, or it can be like standing and like
Oh
on a
wow,
hill.
that's pretty neat as well.
And then look at the dome on this one.
Your camera's pretty good. What phone do
It
you
is.
have?
It is pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
Samsung Note 9.
yeah, you can definitely tell. Like,
I've got a couple of quite rare ones on their way now. Like ones that I thought that I'd never be able to add to the collection. I found reasonable enough prices. And yeah, so I just feel like from here on, pretty much all the rest of the ones that I have an interest in getting, I should be able to get a lot easier than the ones that I've gotten so far.
hmm.
I found a bloke last night he put up a couple and they were like really cheap, and there was I wish I'd fucking just gotten onto it straight away because there was a really cheap version of like probably the last rare one that I need to get, and he put up a bunch of other like other ones that I was like, oh yeah, I could get them, and then he's like, yeah, I've got like another whole collection and I haven't uploaded them yet. Just tell me the ones you're interested in, and I'll do like a private listing for you and you can buy that. So I might be able to get like just smash out a bunch of the ones I've been after in one go, like really cheap, like cheaper than I've seen anywhere. And I'm hoping it's all legit. I mean, he's got like 100% good positive ratings and he's got hundreds of sales, so it looks good. Whereas there was another one that was like, oh yeah, like buy through me. I've sold one item and I've only had my business for this long, but I'm using photos from another website.
Oh, what a weird! I hate that. Like
I'm,
those small inconsistencies throw a
yeah,
sale. Like if
and I'm
it's
just
not
like,
smart, and you don't notice. Like,
I'm like, can you please send me some more photos of the item, but with a coin in the picture? And he sends me some like images that have a watermark from another fucking shop, and just ignores the coin part. I'm like, I've just repeated that same sentence again. Can you please include the coin in the shot? And he goes, oh no, I didn't do that. And it's like his language, like his English skills start like dissipating and like looking really shit too. I was like, this guy's obviously in fucking China selling a bootleg, or if anything at all, and he's just gonna ruin me. So I'm just gonna fuck with him. No racism, but honestly, like China are the worst for bootlegging this shit.
define bootleg. I haven't really like half-assing it.
Like they're not legitimate fucking figures from the company that are like made by themselves.
Oh, not officially released. Okay, got you.
Like they use their own models and they like paint it themselves and like the parts don't connect. Here's the thing though, right? Like apparently they can actually get the molds from the actual factories that are like left over, or they're like they weren't made to 100%. They're the ones that they
Yeah.
threw away, and someone's like grabbed them out of the trash, taken it home, and like run a business from it.
It's pretty like kind of cool. And I think that just highlights like when it comes to like business procedures, you better be awfully careful with how you dispose of like patents and stuff like that. Otherwise, you're gonna get like a million knockoffs
But yeah,
coming
but
for you.
the thing is, like, the guy who's making the knockoffs also works at the company and has been trained how to professionally paint them and make them look really, really good. But you get it in the mail and the leg will be snapped off before you've even opened the box, sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, so some of them are really good and some of them are actually like almost spot on, and you'd never know. But yeah, when you're risking it and it just comes up like everything looks perfect, it's a really good price. Should I get it? And then you look to see where it's from and it says China. And you're like, no, too big a risk. Like, fuck that. Like, people will say like 95% of the time they get something from China, it's just going to be shit. It's just going to fall apart. But 5% of the people happen to come across a really good one. They're happy with it.
Oh,
So that
good.
they're like, if you're really struggling to find a certain piece you're after and you can't get it anywhere else, give China a crack. But don't be surprised if it falls apart.
Yeah. Well, with the slave labor and everything over there and everywhere else, like, yeah,
You kind of can't
oh,
blame them if they're just trying to like support their family and whatnot. But at
yeah.
the same time, like,
That's why it's hilarious when you see, to be honest, like there was this argument put forward like recently after COVID-19. These people in like my city, they've petitioned for, or like in New Zealand, they've petitioned for a universal student wage, so we could
mm,
get like a paid income, like every like a stipend type thing. And I, it's quite funny because I was like, "Hey, man, bring it on, bring me more money." But on the other opposite side, it's like we're already getting that. We already have a benefit, just mislabeled under a different name and stuff like that, like a student allowance. But um, I think when it comes to obviously identifying with kind of, dang it, what was the massive point of that? Like you can't blame them for making a living. Yeah, like when you're trying to make a living, like do you know what I mean? Like of course I want more money. Of course I want more revenue. Of course I want more profit. So just do it. So when you don't blame them, it's almost like you're saying, "Oh, I'm pardoning their actions, and I don't really care." But really, I do care, and really, I want the world to go round in a fair and orderly manner where
mm,
it's equal. But really, I don't want that because there's certain double standards I want for myself where I can get the reduced bargain, where I can get a discount, where I can make my own fake models and stuff like that. So the world is so funny. It's a bundle of contradictions in some ways.
well, I think like I don't know, if you don't have a lot of money and you don't care so much on the quality of something, you just want to have it, then sure, like you'll pay for a bootleg. And if it falls apart, you can glue it back together. If it's not painted right, you can paint it yourself. You can put all that effort in because you don't have the other resources. But if you've worked your fucking ass off and you've got money and you just want the real fucking thing, I don't want to be, supporting some fucking slave labor
Swindled.
factory. I want to get the real legit thing. And you know what? I shouldn't have to feel shit about that. I should fucking just get it. It's not my
Yeah.
fault they've fucking, like, their country's got communist bullshit, fucking, like, unfair shit going on. And
It is your fault. You
it
said
is
it
not
was
my
your
fault.
fault. It is your fault. You said
Well,
it
it
was your
is my
fault.
fault, but it's also not my fault. And I'm identifying with a character who's not faulted it right now.
Well, do you know what that seems like to me? You just get to pick and choose whatever you identify
Exactly
with,
right.
and that's
Yes,
not
exactly right.
cool.
That's,
That's not cool.
no, that's my character right
That's
there.
bullshit.
It's not about what fucking structures of this and that throughout history. No, my brain is like a simulation in a computer, and I can change the variables at my own will to make it do what I want it to do.
That's such a lie. You cannot.
Well, I think humans have the potential for that. As long as we stop going,
Lie.
oh, are you Windows? Are you fucking Ubuntu? Are you Apple? You know the history of this technology, right? No, we've got ourselves to a point where we can like meditation is almost like a way of letting the software be itself, non-hindered by everything else that usually tells it what it is.
Have you had any paranormal experiences?
Oh, to a degree. Like, I, I think they've either been like they've all been self-induced in one way or another,
Oh yeah, from hallucinogens and stuff.
or religion, or
What do you mean? Huh?
or like at the time I would have said that I'd had an experience where I was like with God, and He's like made me talk and made me feel really good, like really la-di-da, all great and awesome. I get this right. I was, how old was I? Probably 14, 16? No, I would have been young. I would have been like, yeah, 13 maybe. Maybe even younger.
Yeah.
Might even, maybe even 10. And I was going to this church with my mum when we were between towns. We were just staying in Swan Hill. And I had like this local church. It was pretty small, but like I really liked the pastor. He seemed like a really nice guy, and he was passionate, and he seemed to talk about a bunch of stuff, and no one would relate to him, but I'd be like all inspired by it.
Yeah.
Everyone was just sitting there like going through the motions, like, oh yeah, like, we're fucking at church, like, when's 11 o'clock coming past? I want some fucking cookies and some coffee and whatnot, whatever. And he's going on about all this stuff, and I'm like really listening. And then he goes, like, everyone close your eyes, and if you are really like feeling what I'm vibing with right now, like put your hand up. Apparently I was the only one to put my hand up. And he's like, alright, come out the front. I'm like, and I've just walked out the front, and then he's just like, tell me what's going on now. And, or, say something like, you've got the mic, go. And I just like spewed out for like, I don't know, 5 minutes about how you've got to have like a childlike faith, and you can't be like questioning it or doing this and that. You just got to like go with it, and you can feel this and you can do that, and rah da 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 da. And I was like carried on and did this, and he's like, wow, that was amazing, that was great, like. And I think like my mum was sitting there like, oh my god, I'm so proud, and dad was just like, what the fuck's going on here? And and I look back on that time, I go, wow, they really did a fucking job on my psyche, didn't they? Like,
Yeah.
like on one hand, it was like really poetic the way he spoke, and it was emotional, and it was like hypnotic. It elicited an hallucination within me that I orchestrated myself. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of religious people get that far, and they go, "Wow, like to have a religious experience, it comes upon you, and it's done to you by God, and all you can ever do is just hope to be the receiver of it." But as I became an atheist, I was like, actually, we are the ones that create that experience for ourselves. And if you believe something like that enough, you can elicit an experience like that. But you don't have to let the rules be dictated by what other people think God is, or what a 2,000-year-old book thinks God is. Like, you can run the simulation any way you want. And so, even though it is at times difficult to get yourself into a state of like highly lucid sort of like dreamlike state where you just feel all good and fuzzy, and you just elicit that good, like those good feelings in you, you can do it. And the harder you make it, the harder you make it. You can make it quite simple, and I think that's what's good about a lot of hypnotists, is that they can demonstrate that it's actually not that hard to spin up a good feeling in yourself, and turn up the volume, and turn up the color, and saturate it, and just like vividly look at this movie picture in your mind, and like make it consume your whole body and all your senses. Like, just using words like that, like poetry, can make someone's internal world completely change. And if you're honest about it and you say, I'm going to do this thing with you, with your help, and if there's any part of it that makes you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to take part, or you can change it to make it suit you. That's a lot more honest than saying, hey, I'm best friends with the boss of the universe. You think anything wrong, you're gonna feel bad. And if you think it,
Yeah.
you think things that are good towards, the spread of this propaganda across the world, you're gonna feel good. And it's just no, take the power out of those people's hands and take it for yourself. And
Mm.
share some of the good stuff with other people without like tying it with all this dogma and shit, and just make people feel good.
Yeah, I think as well, like even the word dogma is I definitely resonate with that because I think the way that I conceptualize like certain religions and not necessarily the religious experience, but religion in general, I see them as conspiracy theorists. And I
Mm.
think, to be honest, the whole world is conspiracy theorists. But I think fundamentally, like when it comes to religion and a lot of like Judaic Christianic values and like this belief in a higher ultimate authority, I think it's very, very attractive because it brings a fantasy of control. It's this idea that somebody's created this mess that is part of humanity or part of our kind of reality, and it almost implies there's a creator, there's also a cure for like the state that we're in. And I think it's much, much harder to psychically deal with the random and meaningless kind of existence that perhaps we can experience if that there is no God or no high being, because that's where our human vulnerability, that's where our mortality can't be ignored anymore. We can't ignore it because if we keep trying to shift the burden onto like some other higher being and higher plan, then um, we're not addressing it. We're not addressing our mortality, and that's why we have like massive beauty kind of corporations that look at anti-aging and stuff like that. Because at at its essence, we're so concerned with appearances. We're so concerned with dying. And if you want to believe in a conspiracy, perhaps a conspiracy that there is a God up there, so be it. If that's comforting, so be it. Like whatevs. But I think it's interesting identifying those individuals that are so intolerably affected by the idea that atheism could be true. It's like,
Mm.
why are you so scared that
Mm.
there could be a possible situation in which a God does not exist? Why? 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 Like, why? Why are
Well,
you so
here's the
upset by
answer.
that? Yeah.
Because they've been like
Okay.
intellectually violated and conditioned to think like it's fucking 1984. Like if they even admit the possibility that the God in their mind doesn't exist, then they're guilty
Mm.
of thought crime and they could go to hell for that. They do not want to concede that line or let the devil's fucking, logic sway this commitment they've made to themselves that God is real and that they're going to heaven and that they would never do anything so blasphemous as to even consider hypothetically that it's not true. They're
Yeah.
conditioned into this. That's why it's hard to like get a Christian across that line if they've been indoctrinated because their whole life there's like a part of hypothetical thinking that they've banned themselves from, and when they do it for a split second, they feel all guilty and they feel like they've done the wrong thing and like they're going to go to hell. I felt that way for a long time too, and it took
Mm.
people challenging the fuck out of me and taking the piss out of me to kind of realize how ridiculous that thinking is before I could like consider it for myself. And I think the logic I used was to like speak to God and be like, God, if you're up there and you want the best for me and you want me to thrive, then you should be willing for me to test your hypothesis so that I can come back stronger in my faith with you. Because you've made me an inquisitive person, you've made me an analytical person. So just let me run these tests on your validity. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're there, I'll come back. And if you're not, then I'm talking to myself like a crazy person.
And yeah, and I think that, to be honest, like first I would like to congratulate you on actually successfully escaping a particular model of thinking, because I think a lot of the time if you start off indoctrinated or like kind of encouraged to think a particular way, everybody's going to say obviously you haven't been indoctrinated, you haven't been brainwashed. But as psychology people, like and analytical people, we know that that's not necessarily the case. Like you could be sufficiently brainwashed in all
Yeah.
sorts of manners, with regardless of whether um, people intended it to happen or not. And I think a lot of the time when it comes to that situation, it's so hard. So it's so awesome that you have left that thinking, to be honest, because it's hard. And I think as well, like for me, like when I think about like religion and stuff like that, it's obvious that people are ascribing some sort of agency, especially if it's to do with fantasies of control and power and hope and existential dread and stuff like that. It's like people ascribe agency to like an object, right? Because if we want to just coin God and religious figures like the prophets, whatever, as objects, they're persecutory, or like they're persecutory, like they are persecutory objects in which if you're not abiding by whatever regiment they have in place, you are going to experience particular emotions affiliated with the consequences of being in that model. So I think my way of looking at it, it's like, I hope individuals that leave one persecutory object don't, in fact, go for another persecutory object. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can leave religion, for example, and then you could go straight for another persecutory object of hallucinogens, for example, changing, idealizing drugs or stuff like that, because you need to fill that meaningless and human vulnerability with something else. And personally, I'm very holistic, and I'm religious in a very non-traditional sense, I suppose, that I have a faith. That's something, I don't know, I hope is out there, that this isn't all hogswash, but...
Nah, you're wrong. It is all hogswash.
Wow. Thank you, atheist. Sadistic justice.
It's beautiful hogswash, though. It's a marvelous hogwash ride.
Well, I think we're just all trying to make out meaning from a chaotic situation, it seems.
No, we're all
and we
trying
want
to
to be
make
able to
out.
predict. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's do that instead, hey? Yeah.
Alright, I'm going to send you
Nah.
something.
Okay. Cool. Do I have to watch it? Do I have to open it? Or... Okay. Well, do you want me to open it now or tomorrow or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll never get it out of my
I
mind.
hate Audible. They know I'm a reader and they keep targeting me and it's pissing me off. Wait, before I watch the video, what targeted ads do you get on your YouTube?
Oh, I'll get plenty of Audible as well.
Yeah.
Even before I was much of a reader. I don't know. If I'm watching atheist videos, often there'll be like Christian ads.
How bullshit.
I was like, you're really knocking on the wrong fucking door here.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Thanks for answering that. And
What's up, Dad?
Oh, Tim's McGee over here just died in a car accident.
And?
And he was an atheist. Surprise, motherfucker! I'm real.
Come on, Dad, stop antagonizing the atheists. Isn't it enough that you send them to hell?
Jeffrey, don't fuck with the highlight of my day, okay? Did you think nothing created you, Tank Twister? You think the universe created itself? Ah! Are you so daft?
Well, Dad, you exist, and you must be very intelligent.
Of course I'm intelligent. I'm God.
Well, what's the explanation for your existence and intelligence?
I just am, okay?
No, not okay. Human minds are so intelligent that they demand a creator, an explanation for their existence. Then how much more intelligent must their creator's mind be? So intelligent that it too demands an explanation for its existence. Even more so.
The explanation. I'm eternal, you little flying diaper nugget. I always exist. I just am.
That means it's possible for an intelligent mind to exist without a creator. And therefore this atheist that his mind was an intelligent mind is perfectly reasonable. Because you're standing here, God himself supposedly result of evolution has far more of an explanation than I'm just eternal, as if the word eternal just now implies should be so obvious. The only inconsistency. Yeah, it's special pleading. According to your logic, you must be created. How do you know you weren't?
Because you little nipple fighter, I'm a big shit. Oh,
You can't know that.
why the hell not?
Because there could be something that you don't know, that you don't know. Never be able to say there is. Know it if there were.
You think I'm sick and tired of your bullshit? What are you gonna do with that? Jeffrey, I'm off.
Results from the people at the distro center for those prototypes you dropped off? Looks like both caught their eye. The motor, for one, was impressive. They really couldn't believe it was made from scrap. It can be fitted to a modified truck and be ready to go in no time. They contracted the junk dealer straight away and got it added to the list of supplies that can be fabricated. They had good things to say about the pouch, too. Contract has already been made, and you'll find the pouch in your private room. If you want to customize your backpack, you'll need to drop by one anyway. Anyway, I hope you appreciate what those two did for you, and give this new gear a try.
Good work. New order available. Please access...
Yes, of course. Use it, get lesser beings to... Yahweh has a lot to answer. Your own God, sure. Because you just want to live according to your own rules, Yahweh. And all you needed to do was
Good morning, Sam. Blood collection complete. Thank you for your generosity.
Sam, don't know if you're aware, but you can customize your pack in your private room. Why not give it a try?
well, you must be judged. And unfortunately, I created all the gods, yes, but I myself am not a god. I am humanity. I created you because there were times when I felt scared and alone. There were times when I grieved. There were times when I felt awe and wonder. I so desperately I wanted to control other people. All these things of the gods was most unnecessary. Not way childish things.
Wow, that was pretty cool.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, that was actually really that was really funny, and I think it was really enlightening as well because I think they made quite a lot of distinctions between what you know, you don't know, stuff like that, like justified beliefs, and then they talked about he implied it towards the end, like necessary conditions, what it means to be a necessary thing when he was discussing like a necessary evil for him to realize that it's kind of like an illusion of control, which is quite kind of cool. I thought that would like make a lot of people mad. That religious.
Oh yeah, it is one that,
That
ticked
is
off
so
a particular Christian I showed it to.
Really? Yeah.
I think the idea pissed him off, but he didn't have any reason to reject it until the swearing stuff came up, and then he's like, no, it's the swearing I don't like. No, I've had enough. I'm like, righto.
dumb.
But yeah. On
But
that
it's
note,
like picking between the lesser of evils. Like, why would you pick swearing as opposed to like your whole paradigm being questioned? Like,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna really use that to defend yourself?
he was
and then
looking
run
for
away?
an out, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give him this. Like he didn't swear like in general, so like it was probably the best out that he could have used, other than just being like, my world view is crumbling. But yeah, no.
Well, yeah. I think it'd be hard to use the system to disprove the system, and I think that's obviously what's going on with those gods, is they're trying to use Earth logic to disprove like some sort of universal logic, which just seems incompatible. And I suppose it goes back to what we discussed with perfect goodness and perfect kind of the perfect being. Like, does the perfect being have to necessarily be perfectly good and perfectly able to do whatever's within their repertoire throughout all possible universes? Do you know what I mean? Like, if there is another universe in which they have indeed been created, is it their role to kind of be perfectly good in that world also, or is it sufficient enough for them to be fine in the world that they were operating in?
They can
And that's
be whatever the fuck they want, as long as when they write a book an autobiography, and they say that they're perfectly loving and perfectly capable and perfectly everything, and then they don't demonstrate any of it. You're just like, well, you know, they're contradicting value, like, traits to say that, like, you're all caring and, you know, you don't want anything bad to happen, but then you do let it happen.
Yeah.
You know, and like you explicitly state in particular stories where you're like punishing people, that you like set bears onto them or you set them on fire. You do these things that even you know is a bad thing as a punishment, and then you just let that happen to innocent people. It's like, yeah, no. Like children, bone cancer, why not? Like AIDS, give it to babies. Not like you'd think there'd have to be some consistencies with like a god who fucking cared and it was capable of like making sure these things didn't happen. But
Yeah.
there's none. And it's
What were you
better.
gonna say? What were you gonna say before? Did you say you were gonna go hop off or something?
I am.
Yeah.
Like
all
I'd love to
good.
stay up.
See you later.
We want to take the little man for a walk tomorrow before his first nap, so I need to be up at a reasonable time.
Oh, cute. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's all good. Oh well, it was nice chatting with you.
It was good.
And yeah, I'll see you later.
Yeah, have
Okay.
one. Bye.
You too. Bye.